Growing up, I hated running. Maybe it was because different doctors and people told me, hey, you have asthma, maybe running isn't the best thing for you. Maybe it's because when I ran, I wanted to be kicking a ball towards a goal or shooting a ball into a hoop. I didn't really see the point in just running for fun. But then I got a dog. And that changed everything. Now I run about 25 to 30 miles a week when I'm not training. And when I am training, I'm running up to 75 miles a week, depending on what I'm training for. Well, today we're going to talk about how to run with exercise-induced asthma. Now, I'm not a healthcare professional. I've got a disclaimer on the screen right here. Also in the description, got a disclaimer. I'm not a healthcare professional. You need to talk to your doctor before doing any of these things, or your healthcare professional. Before we get started, I do have a free gift for you. It is my free Healthy Living Guide, where I go over the 3 pillars of healthy living that I have lived by as an athlete with asthma that not only has helped me lose 30 pounds over a 90-day period, but I've also kept off the weight and perform at a high level as an athlete. Grab the guide, it's linked right below this video. You can start integrating the 3 pillars into your life today. They're not that difficult. It just takes time, it takes commitment, and you can really get some healthy living results. So the first thing, when you're looking at running in general, if you have asthma or exercise-induced asthma, you gotta be really careful, okay? So you always wanna warm up. That is the first thing. You always want to do a warm-up. Now, depending on who you are and how extreme your asthma is, a warm-up could look very differently. For me, because yet again, on this channel, I can really only teach from my own experience. I'm not an expert when it comes to asthma, but I am an athlete that performs at a high level that has asthma. My warm-ups look a couple different ways. If I'm warming up for a run, I usually start with a walk. This could be a quarter mile, this could be half a mile, this could be a mile. It could be most of your run if you need it to be. The key is to actually work up to that run. If you have exercise-induced asthma, you may only be able to walk and then run for like a 1/10 of a mile. That's kind of how I started with running. Now, I'll walk a quarter mile and then I'll run 10 miles. The other thing is you can really look at dynamic stretching. Now, dynamic stretching is really a game changer in running. When I trained for my first marathon, I knew nothing about dynamic stretching. Then I took the Peloton marathon training program, and this is what I had to do before every single run. And what it is you combine a walk with stretching. Now, the purpose here is to wake up your muscles, start to loosen them up, start to open them up to receive more oxygen before your run without loosening them up so much that you could cause injury, you could cause other issues. So dynamic stretching is really holding stretching poses for like 2 seconds at a time. So as you can see in this clip here, you'll be walking, grab your knee, put it back down. Or you do a lunge, or you can literally go and touch your toes for 2 seconds. But really, it's combining the walking and stretching. That's what you're doing. You really want to make sure you warm up, and depending on how bad your asthma is, your warm-up may be longer than others, and that's fine. Be true to yourself. The next thing is you're going to want to take it slow. I know we're excited. You just signed up for that 5K, 10K, half marathon, or maybe you're crazy like me and you signed up for a 50-miler. And you're just pumped to get going. You gotta take it slow. The crazy thing about asthma, and what I've found out from me and my own asthma over the years, is if I don't train for like a long time, or if I'm not used to a certain activity, like I didn't play soccer for 5 years, okay? That's all I did growing up. But about a year ago, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start playing soccer again. And I'm a runner. I play a lot of Frisbee. I also do a lot of yoga, sculpt, HIIT classes, all these things. My first soccer game back after not playing for like 5 years was terrible. Like, it was tough. Like, my muscles weren't ready, my asthma flared up. So what I've really learned is if you don't do something for a long period of time, even if you've done it before, when you have asthma, it exacerbates it. For me, it really is a, if you don't continue to do it, you do lose it situation. So if you are not a runner and you're trying to become a runner and you have that marathon coming up, you really need to take it slow. You really got to slowly ramp it up. And that might be walking a lot of your runs for the first few weeks. You may need an extended training program. Instead of a 16 or 18 week training program, you may need a 24 to 30 week training program because you need to take it slow and slowly ramp up, because what you're really doing is you're slowly increasing the strength of your lungs. So take it slow. Number 3, don't be afraid to walk. And I know this is like the second, third, or fourth time I'm saying this, but it is so important. Because we all have egos. I really, really like to run at this point. And when I have to walk, when I feel like I have to walk, I'm not happy about it, but I still do it because it is so important. I remember I'd already ran 2 marathons and I had started training for my first 50K, so 31 miles. And I was doing a 10-mile long run. Well, once you've done a couple of marathons, a 10-mile long run doesn't sound very long, right? You're like, 10-mile long run, I got it. Well, I was struggling during this 10-mile long run. And this was not an asthma situation. I wasn't struggling because of my asthma. I was struggling because of my knee. And what was going on is, depending on how much you know about knees, I've been learning a lot over the past couple of years. There's something called your peroneus. That's like under your kneecap. Under like your knee. It's like shin meets knee, called the peroneus. It was hurting really bad. Similar to kind of like a shin splint, but kind of above where the shin splint is, right? So shin splint is really when the muscle on your shin is literally, it's coming off of the shin. It's like, and what you really need to do is you got to like press it back on. Well, the peroneus is like above that. Point is, I was going uphill. It was a 10-mile run. I'd already done a couple marathons. I'm training for a 50K. And I'm like, I feel like I should probably walk. And I was pissed, but I did it. And I was only 5 miles into this run. And I'm like, you know what? I think I need to walk the rest of this. So I still completed the 10-mile long run, but half of it was a walk. And you might have to do the same thing when you're running and you have asthma or an injury comes up. If you have a goal of doing 4 miles as your long run in that first week of training, which is usually what it is for that first week of training, and you can only get through half a mile, but you feel comfortable walking the other 3.5, that's what you're gonna have to do. If you're on a Tuesday and you only have a 2-mile run for that day and you need to get it done, and you go and you start running and your asthma picks up and you're only a 1/4 mile in, if you feel safe, you might have to walk that 1.75 miles. You might have to not walk at all. If it's getting really bad, you gotta be careful, but don't be afraid to walk. Next, always focus on breath. This can be hard. When you have asthma, breath can be viewed as the enemy, right? You're like, oh, I can't breathe. My chest is tight. I'm wheezing, I'm coughing. For me, whenever I have an asthma attack, it's kind of like having a panic attack or an anxiety attack. And then I just get kind of upset that it's happening. I'm like, I want to do the thing, but this is stopping me. Well, when you focus on your breath, when you slow down, when you take it slow, and you start focusing on your breath, you can start calming down your asthma attack. Now, it really depends on how bad it is, and you probably want to bring your inhaler to do this run, by the way, too. Whenever you're running, have your inhaler with you. I don't have asthma attacks. My asthma does not affect me when I run anymore, but I still bring it with me. I always have it with me, and I always have a tracker on my phone so people know exactly where I am. My significant other knows exactly where I am when I'm running at all times. You gotta be careful. You want people to know, if you're not running with someone, you want people to know where you are, and you always want to have that inhaler with you if you are running with someone or not. But you can also focus on your breath. And if you're struggling to focus on your breath, focus on your exhales. It's a lot easier to focus on your exhales than to focus on your inhales. If you focus on your exhales, your inhales will follow. So you just push the air out, like you're making room for the fresh air by pushing out that CO2. So always focus on breath. I do something called locomotive breathing. When I'm going up a hill, I really came up with this while climbing 14ers. I was told, hey, probably shouldn't climb 14ers. I built up my lung capacity, climbed a 14er. I used my inhaler the first time I went up. Now I don't use my inhaler going up 14ers. I still bring it because, at 13,500 feet, I always feel it. It's like, I think if you don't have asthma, you start feeling it at about 13.5. But the point is, I learned this technique that I call locomotive breathing, / friends of mine call it locomotive breathing because I sound like a train climbing the mountain. But you're basically just doing these really intense exhales, just really intense, where you're just like, and what that's done for me is it's really brought my focus away from, oh, this is really freaking hard, away from, is my asthma starting to kick in, solely into the sound of the breath. And then my body's getting oxygen, and I get up the mountain. I highly recommend focusing on the breath. Try locomotive breathing, it's pretty fun. Lastly, if you're gonna do a warm-up, you should probably also do a cool down. Now, this is extremely important because, at least for me, growing up, I'm playing soccer, I do a hard sprint, and then I stop moving. What happens? Well, along with lactic acid immediately starting to build up in the muscles, that's when my asthma would hit me, right? So you sprint and then you stop, and your heart rate's trying to go down, your body's trying to get enough oxygen. The point is you need to keep moving. Same thing with running. You finish that 3-mile run, you should probably keep moving for another half mile or so, another few minutes. So you want to do a cool down, and you want to do a stretch. So this could be, walking, it should be. It should also be stretching. I do a 10-minute stretch after every single workout that I do. After a run, after a hard, high-intensity interval training workout, I have a sequence of stretches that I've habit stacked where my brain literally says to itself, oh, we just finished a workout, let's start doing these stretches. And it's amazing for really helping your muscles, but it also just helps bring your body down instead of this abrupt, intense activity to nothing. So you want to cool down. Now with all of this, you got to make sure, talk to your medical professional. Got a disclaimer on the screen here. I am an athlete with asthma, not an expert at asthma or treating asthma. I can teach based on my experience. I can't teach based on your experience. I don't know what your experience is. You need to be careful. Make sure you always have your inhaler or whatever you use to manage your asthma with you. And make sure you talk to your healthcare professionals. Remember, I have that gift for you, the 3 pillars of healthy living. It's my guide. It's linked right below this video. Thank you for the likes and subscribes.